When we launched the Bee app last June, we made a commitment to Vermonters. We build tech that makes it easy to show up. We soon learned that while this accessible resource for finding community activities and volunteer opportunities is an important part of delivering on that promise, organizations and schools needed platform-level systems to coordinate volunteer participation. We took it upon ourselves to tackle that problem, but honestly, didn't really know where to start. Fortunately for us, and more importantly, for Vermont communities, someone else already had years ago. We met and we decided to team up. That's why today I'm joined by Margarita Ivanova, the innovator behind the Dono volunteer management and donation transport software platform. In March, Shock, the nonprofit community technology startup that built the Bee app, acquired the Dono platform and was fortunate to have Margarita join the Shock team alongside her powerful technology. We are excited to talk about what building community software together means for Vermont. So Margarita, tell me, where did your passion for helping people start? And what was the change you wanted to see when you built Dono?
Thanks for that intro. I definitely started during the pandemic. So I was walking in the streets of Princeton my senior year of high school with my friend, and we were just wandering around because there was nothing else to really do. And someone handed me a flyer for a nonprofit organization in New Jersey. It was called Eastern Service Workers. And what they did was food distribution throughout Trenton. And I looked at the flyer and I was like, I've never done something like this before. And I was really interested in kind of going and seeing what the opportunity was, because I wasn't really in school. We were just submitting assignments on Google Classroom, not really doing anything. And so I wanted to have a sense of purpose and feel like I was helping someone. And I went and I started just driving and doing pickups for them. And I noticed that they didn't have a really good system of volunteer coordination. I mean, the main way that they were getting volunteers was handing out flyers on the streets and bringing people in and sending emails. And I just thought how there must be a better way to bring people on board. And I also noticed that pretty much all of the volunteers were older. There were no young people, and they were telling me how exciting it was for them to have someone that was 18 years old volunteering. And so I started, and I wanted to bring more students on board. And I started coordinating with some of the local high schools to get more kids involved that felt like they didn't have much going on during the pandemic.
Just kind of by yourself, like no technology, just pulling them in.
Yeah, just reaching out to schools. And I thought about how we could have a better solution to that. And you know, I was kind of in a phase where I was very anti-tech and I was always out in nature and going into the woods and meditating. But I did realize that the common ground for a lot of my generation is technology in terms of communication. So I started reaching out to people online who made apps, and I was like, where do you start? What did you do?
Nice.
And the first step was you build a prototype. And I Googled a company that built prototypes and worked that summer and had one built to create kind of a software that brings together volunteers into the nonprofit space and just allows postable opportunities for free, because you look at a lot of the databases that exist online and they're paid subscriptions to check out opportunities. And I just wanted to streamline like the communication process. And I noticed that they also had donation gaps. Like most of the donations they were getting were also outreach based. So I wanted to find a way for them to connect more efficiently with the businesses and communities around them to donate tangible goods like food and clothing. So yeah, that was the start of it. And I just really wanted to bring people together into one ecosystem to do all of that.
Ecosystem is the perfect word. I mean, you know, there's seems like a lot of kind of individual elements of that even by themselves were struggling to be participants, but kind of using the technology, you can bring them all together into one specific, one platform.
And it just felt so good to give, to actually interact with people in that way during a time where social distancing was so encouraged, and to be able to just walk up to someone and hand them something that they needed felt really special and rewarding. And I felt like when I was in high school, I didn't really experience that because I did a lot of kind of meaningless volunteer work for my hour requirements. I mean, I was volunteering in the mayor's campaign office, helping them with forms and filing things. And it was really extracted of the human element. And I think that a lot of kids have required volunteer hours for schools. And if you're putting in the time, you might as well put that time into something that's really meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, volunteerism can be an expression of like your interests, right? Your passions can be a way to, especially as a student and a younger individual, to really start to explore the things that matter to you. And if you're just limited to the political orgs or whatnot that you can kind of find yourself, then it's going to narrow that down a lot for you as opposed to expand those opportunities.
Yeah, and it definitely takes away the echo chamber that you're used to. And when you're in school, you're kind of in a bubble and you're interacting with the same people pretty much every day. And it's good to step outside of that and have the chance to do that.
I love that. Yep. I'm very excited for what we're going to talk about today. I think it's going to be cool to bring together a lot of these pieces of your passion and the technology and really start to explore how that fits in within the Shock. Also, we like to call it an ecosystem as well, but it's just the right word for it, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I love about the story that we have to tell today is how it all began and how we met. Because it has those awesome nature themes that kind of goes throughout all the work we do at Shock. And really what kicked it off is I had been in Vermont and I had some property here, but I wanted to buy some more and try to protect a chunk of nature. And so I found this property that had a bunch of beaver dams on it. And I went and toured the property and I was like, this is cool, maybe I could buy this and kind of protect these beavers. But I really thought that maybe I could invest those dollars in a different way and maybe drive some more impact than just kind of buying like a lot of land. And it was really fortunate actually because the realtor who brought me to the property, we were hiking back. It was about this time of year actually, kind of sloshing through the snow and the mud. And she told me, she's like, well, have you heard about the Vermont Law and Graduate School's Environmental Advocacy Clinic? Because they are doing some really great work protecting natural resources in the state of Vermont and in New Hampshire. And they're always looking for funding. So I said, well, that sounds pretty cool. And so reached out through my private foundation and just started to find out, hey, what are the types of projects that you are working on? And ended up supporting one of the projects that is looking at protecting the Worcester mountain range. But anyway, these beavers kind of led me in the direction of the Vermont Law and Graduate School. And that brought this kind of brought us into each other's orbits as you are a student there as well. And from my end, it seemed like the law school kind of heard, well, hey, we've got Margarita, she's working on this really incredible community software. We've got Saul over here, he's up to his tricks. And can we make a connection happen here? So I'm really grateful for them to them for making that connection. And I remember the first time that I saw the Dono software platform, I was a little bit like, whoa, I kind of felt a little surreal. Wait, this is another Vermont-based company doing community technology? Like, what is this? Is this actually happening? You don't just see that, out there. So thought it was just really, really cool. Nature kind of, led it in the right direction here. But really curious to know from your end, when you came across Bee for the first time, what were your initial thoughts? What kind of went through your head?
Yeah, so at first when we were introduced, I thought about how Bee is doing really parallel work to what we're doing. We really focused on the volunteer aspect, but you guys focused on the whole community and just bringing people to in-person experiences. And bringing people to in-person experiences is the philosophy behind Dono too. It's just within a very specific area. And at first I was like, he might not like this. This might feel like competition for them. But
a little bit.
yeah. But then you think about how when you're doing nonprofit work, there's not really such a thing as competition. And there's always room to collaborate and work with people that are involved in a similar mission as you. So I reached out and I was like, okay, I'll see where this goes. And it was about a month until we actually got in touch and introduced one another over a Google Meet call. And it was a really cool experience to just hear about what you were doing after I stalked your platform a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, you reached out in early December, and then I just blew you off for a month because not intentionally, but Shock closes down for December and kind of just lets people go off and have family time and so forth. But you were one of the first emails that I sent when we were back in the office in January. And I remember getting on that initial call, and I had suspicions that there was going to be a partnership opportunity, because I agree, it's like in the nonprofit space, it's can we work together and move forward as opposed to try to go after each other. And I think it was right on that initial call where I straight up was like, hey, you're doing cool stuff. You ran me through the platform, kind of gave me a breakdown that all checked all the boxes of things we'd heard talking with Vermont communities over the course of last summer, where they were coming to us and saying, hey, we need these pieces, we need this software. And so when you explained what you had, I said, all right, let's do this. Like, you interested in acquisition? And then we just moved forward straight from there.
And I feel like when you hear about tech startup, you never have the word nonprofit in that same sentence. So I was just dumbfounded by the fact that there was this platform in Vermont specifically that wasn't a for-profit endeavor in the tech space. And it felt like it was destined for a partnership.
Totally. Yeah, it's a difficult problem to solve, being a nonprofit and a technology company, because you have really high costs for software development, but at the same time, you're not necessarily turning around and charging the communities a bunch of money for it. What I've found with the way we've approached that at Shock is just having to think bigger, right? Like it is difficult if you're going to operate as a small nonprofit technology startup. The great thing about community technology and technology in general is it lets you think big and lets you go big. And I think for people out there who are trying to set up their own nonprofit technology startups, that's probably the way to go about it, is what's the big picture problem here. And I think that's really kind of what you tackled with Dono was, hey, you have these different elements, and everything is kind of individually sufficient or close to it, but what is that expansion overall that you can start to bring together using the technology?
And I guess it starts with the trust element too, getting trust from the people that are going to be using it. And that's not always easy to do when you're coming from a tech standpoint and they're like, okay, so are there paid subscriptions? Is this actually free? People are very skeptic of that. And so it's nice to come into it with someone that's experienced in doing that already. So I think it'll just end up being even stronger than it otherwise would have been.
I agree. There was a comment on one of our Bee posts last week that one of the team members showed me, and it was effectively somebody asking some very valid questions about, like, who are you? Like, where's Bee coming from? And one of the things they said was, is this big tech getting its hands on, big tech trying to monetize community software at this point? And it was like, no, but it's interesting that that's where your head went, alongside like statewide surveillance or something like that. Because tech, and this, we talk about this quite a bit at Shock, is like tech is scary the way that it's presented right now. We don't see a lot of great uses for technology, or we don't see it applied in the best of ways. And frequently it's just about monetization and surveillance, definitely, or even weaponization. And I think really speaks volumes about the technology that you've created and that we've created at Shock with Bee, is that it's a reframing of how we approach technology, not only in how we build it, but our expectations of how it can be used, and also our relationship with that technology.
Yeah, and on that point of surveillance, I definitely do think the lack of trust can come from that too, because at least from the schools that I've talked to, they're always concerned with, okay, where's this data going and what's it being used for? And so I think just the solution to that is transparency. And there hasn't been much transparency historically in the tech space. So
Nope.
that's
And those privacy
part of it.
policies are super easy to read, right?
Yeah, yeah. And even with nonprofits, I tell them straight up, I'm not going to charge you to use this. And they've been like, are you sure? Is this only for the first couple of months? And then when you get us hooked on it, you'll start charging us. And I'm like, no, I just want to use this for a tool to do good things and help you guys, because you guys need the help. Mm-hmm. And you don't have the software right now. You have spreadsheets and very manual ways of doing everything that wastes a lot of time when you could be doing all of the wonderful work that you're involved with. So,
and that's the great thing about technology is, once you've built it, there are some operating costs and server fees and so forth, but it's just out there and people can use it. It's not something that has a significant ongoing cost. Speaking of costs, we at Shock, we've been around for 2.5 years now, and we spent $2-3 million and built, the Bee app. And the Bee app, I love the Bee app. It's amazing, but it's also, fundamentally just a map, and there's not much else going on with it. And we, that funding was invested also in building a 20-person team and, putting together the resources to be able to have conversations like this and all the fun merch we've handed out and all that good stuff. But, you accomplished and built a huge platform with multiple capabilities for probably about a 25th of that cost. Very, very cost effective. So really, is there a certain, it seems like there was a certain level of enthusiasm with which you approached this project, where you said, it doesn't matter what it costs, doesn't matter what I have to do, I'm going to make this technology come to life and bring it to life.
Yeah, and that came with finding a great team to kind of help bring that technology to life. And there was a lot of interviewing with different teams and companies where I was asking them, okay, what are you going to charge a nonprofit for this software? And it was me trying to bring in my feelings and empathy to get costs cut as much as possible. So I definitely ended up just finding who I thought was the right fit, and then who was just the most cost-effective fit at the time, because as a nonprofit, when you're starting off, you don't necessarily have a huge chunk of funds just laying around to throw away and waste time with. So everything has to be very intentional. I think that's kind of why I approached it from a very customer-centric standpoint, where I would go up to the nonprofits, spend time with them, volunteer with them, go to the schools, talk to guidance counselors about how they currently manage their volunteers, and just really get an understanding of what they needed, and then directly integrate that into the app, because I didn't want to assume what organizations needed and then have to backtrack and spend even more money to do things the right way and then figure out what was actually their reality. Yeah. So it definitely pushes you to be really intentional.
Well, I'm really glad that you were taking all those proper steps and being intentional and interviewing the customer profile and so forth, because when we built the Bee app, it was kind of just a day spent in nature in a very specific state of mind and a quick nap, and then boom, like, here's an app, we should build this thing. And then, 6 months later, there it was. But I think that speaks to exactly what we found when we brought Bee out into Vermont communities, which is people said, like, yes, this is a key part of the problem of bringing people together and making these volunteer opportunities and these community events discoverable, being that digital bulletin board and that place-based experience that has been missing. But we also heard that the tool that was actually needed to facilitate was not Bee, and it ended up being exactly what you created.
Thank you. And what you're doing and what you have done with the way you map out all of these opportunities for people is extremely helpful, and it makes things really easy for the user. And I think that's kind of what we've been missing. So we haven't really focused on the bigger picture. We've kind of gone into all of the technicalities of, okay, how do we arrive and depart people, and how do we keep track of all of that and send that data to the schools and to the nonprofits? But kind of bigger picture user experience, I think you guys captured it, and it's going to be a really good opportunity to kind of merge both of those tools.
Yep. Yeah, we're working on two halves of the same problem, somehow like perfectly divided. And then the universe brought us together, and here we are putting those tools together for Vermont communities. So we met through this crazy story, thanks to the beavers, and are bringing together these two pieces of really incredible software. But why does this matter? And what is the problem that we're really trying to solve here for people and for communities?
I think that at the end of the day, it comes down to a lack of connection. And that's coming from an individual level, but also from an organization level too. Like, organizations aren't actually connected to the communities that they're serving and the individuals that are living right around them. So,
crazy, right?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Whether it's from an individual level and the volunteers within the community aren't actually reaching the nonprofits and the nonprofits aren't kind of showing their opportunities to them, or if it's the businesses and the farms that could donate resources to nonprofits. And there's a lot of gleaning collectives where farms will donate their food that's left over, but there's a lot of local organizations that aren't directly connected to those farms. So I view it as a connection issue with the individual who's not really getting out and is kind of isolated and burnt out. And then also the organizations that are just not really communicating enough, that want to be involved in the community, but there's not kind of one centralized ecosystem where they can do that.
And the intent is there. Like, it's not that they don't want to be connected. It's just that everyone is so busy working on the things that they are doing and operating with limited resources and limited teams that they don't even have the time to step back and necessarily even think about, what are the solutions and the technology that could be valuable and that could start to connect those pieces together. And a lot of what that results in is, on kind of the organizer side and schools and businesses, is a lot of burnout and people just feeling like, I'm trying to move here, I'm trying to do this work, and there has to be a better way. There must be something that could make all of this better, but don't have the opportunity to necessarily stop and put that into action.
And people really want to see a tangible impact of their work too. It helps to kind of see, how many hours have I actually contributed to an organization? Am I showing up in the ways that my community needs me? And with our tech, you can kind of show them that. You can show them the numbers, but then you can also show them the humanity that's attached to those numbers.
Absolutely. Yeah, we, the hypothesis going in building the Bee app was that people want to do good. Like, that is something that people feel, especially right now, all the disruption. They want to be a part of that, like, forward direction, that positivity. But it's really the tools that get in their way. There really just hasn't been a good way to kind of translate that intent into community action and into community change until people like you and people at Shock come along and say, you know what? The tools do exist. We can communicate with each other over long distances and up close within our communities using just apps. So what if we built apps and platforms for things that enable those desires to manifest into something that is very tangible, both for the individual, but also the impact that has within a community as well. Like, the ability for a platform like Dono to transport that food and really that's a real world impact for people who are at the other end there and need that food. This is real lives that we're talking about.
And it might seem quite contradictory, hopping on an app in order to facilitate human connection. How have you gone about those conversations? Because it might seem a little bit counter to what the mission is sometimes, and I've experienced it on my end.
Yeah, I like to tell people that, like, Bee is an app to end all apps type of a deal, where it's getting on your phone to get off of your phone. And at Shock, we refer to it as reality technology. It's really, people talk about virtual reality technology and disappearing into the digital world, and we're like, no, opposite direction. Let's get back out there and let's get our hands dirty. Let's show up, even if it's just showing up, right? And I think that's something that we've learned a lot with Bee, is that it doesn't always need to be about necessarily doing something. Just being present in your community and showing up to support, to be there, that is enough, both for the community, but also for that individual to start to foster the redevelopment of the connections that technology has stolen from people, right? You look at the use of social media, and what's happening there is people are being put into silos, and everyone's being told this is the thing that everyone around you actually believes. And as a result, you have neighbors that live next to each other, but they've never been further apart. But that's only one way that technology can play out in society. And I think that the technology that Dono has and the technology of Bee is a direct counter argument to that extractive approach.
Yeah, and what you're saying about neighbors, I feel like whenever I would go to Bulgaria growing up and I'd see the way that my family in the city would interact with their neighbors, it was very different than kind of how it was for me when I was living in Boston and I was surrounded by all of these people who didn't really want to talk to me. Like in Bulgaria, I saw my aunt's neighbor come up to her house while she was in slippers, knock on the door and say, "Can I have like 4 eggs, please?" And I was just thinking, if I walked up to my neighbor's house here and asked for 4 eggs, they would probably call the police. So no, I think there's so much beauty in that. And I think when you give people the tools to connect and maybe realize that they're closer than they seem, or they have more common ground than they initially would think on social media, then they're going to be more kind of inclined to have experiences like that with one another and be more comfortable with asking each other for help, because that's also a part of it. The mission goes beyond the app and the tools that we're providing in that moment, and it kind of speaks to the bigger picture of creating connections that will help people really long term.
Absolutely. Sometimes people ask me, what is the vision for the Bee app? Like, where does the Bee app end up? And what I tell them is the Bee app doesn't exist in that future. And it doesn't exist because people are just showing up in their communities and they don't need a piece of technology to facilitate that exchange. I hope the Bee app always sticks around, and I think it'll always have a place. But kind of what you're speaking to is that these are human connections and human interactions. The technology is just an enhancement layer that makes it possible in today's world where there is a higher level of complexity, but also captures a lot of the value of the technology that we haven't seen used in these ways so far. So Bee really makes it easy to show up in your community. And Dono is the infrastructure that takes that intent and makes it something sustainable and translates it into that ongoing flywheel of volunteerism and of communities working together to solve their own problems. And what I'm really excited about is the fact that all of this was born in Vermont. I think that's something that it feels like chance when you first see it, but I don't think it's chance. And when you look at the culture of Vermont and the fabric of Vermont communities, you see that mutual aid shining through. And so I think it's, the Green Mountains is just the perfect place for a wonderful story like this to start.
Absolutely. And I never saw a community bulletin board until I came to Vermont.
Really?
I never saw one in Boston. People will put flyers up on just street signs and stuff like that, but having like one place where people just post all of the things that they're doing and have organizations host things and invite literally the whole community to those, that's something really special. And I found in Vermont too, So
one thing I want to be really clear about is that the Bee app isn't going anywhere, right? This isn't a pivot, this isn't a replacement, nor is the Dono technology going anywhere. This is really about bringing together 2 tools that are incredible on their own, but expanding an ecosystem and stronger and better together. So tell me, Margarita, what does your role at Shock look like going forward?
I feel like I'm definitely in a student role outside of my student role outside of this, but I'm just here to learn from everyone. And I'm kind of transitioning from a team of 5 people to now a team of 20 people.
Yeah.
And it's a huge change. And there's so many small teams even within that big team. So kind of learning the ways that they operate and especially the ways they interact is something that is really new to me. So I'm excited to be part of it and also interact a lot with the dev team in the first few months and figure out the best ways to integrate our tech and then also keep doing the mission that we're doing, which is reaching out to the community and seeing the best ways to create new features to support them.
Yeah, this really gives you kind of an expanded opportunity to be present in the communities and be talking with the people that are, excited about Bee, and really hand off some of the day-to-day dev work and know that that's in good hands, and then just really continue to thrive and bring that passion that kicked off this whole journey for you into Vermont communities.
And I'm excited to get more involved in different roles that I've never really focused on with Dono too. I mean, we talked about writing and we talked about some video work and getting into the social media bubble, and I've been so separate from that for a long time, and I've just been focusing on Dono app, community, communication. So it'll be nice to kind of experience some new roles as I'm stepping into Shock.
Yes, you're in a very productive ecosystem. There are lots of opportunities to show up in a multitude of ways. And as Vermont communities will soon see, this is far from the last time that Margarita will be on the camera and out sharing her story. And I think this is, today was about talking about what brought you here and the work that you've done. And I'm super excited to work with you and partner on the work that we have going forward within Vermont and beyond.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to be hosting the Green Mountain Lightning Round, a bunch of fun little questions here with Margarita. So, tell me, Margarita, have you ever shown up somewhere alone, not knowing anyone, and how did it go?
This probably happens about 3 times a week. I like my little side quests, but the most recent one was probably when I went to an open mic night in Vermont, because I was like, I don't want to know anyone. I don't want anyone to know my name, know my face, which is inevitable in Vermont. But I showed up, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna do a song. Met a bunch of cool musicians, and it was such a great time. And I made a lot of friends that I'm still friends with now. I really thought I was going somewhere where I'd see none of these people afterwards, but nope. No. So your question is, what's the last thing that made you feel genuinely hopeful for the world?
Oh boy. Honestly, I think it might be meeting Dono and meeting you and seeing there's other people out there working on amazing community technology and driving forward similar missions. I'm still riding that high.
Me too.
Good. What is something you are weirdly competitive about?
It's a good question. When I'm in the gym and I'm running on the treadmill and I see someone running on the treadmill next to me, I have to run faster than they're running and longer than they're running. So I will literally have a 2-mile run planned, but if they're still going, I'm like, no, I'm riding it out till 4. Just so I have this competition satisfied in my brain that they're not even paying attention to.
Have you ever run into someone that, like you've upped the treadmill and they look over and they up the treadmill and then you up the treadmill and next thing you know, you're just like hanging on, trying to not go off?
Not yet, but I'm waiting for that.
It's bound to happen.
It's bound to happen.
Well, I despise running, but if I did, I think that would probably be what happened between us.
Yeah, I agree. What's the first thing you do on a Saturday morning?
Get punched in the face by my cat. Yep. That's how I've been waking up lately. Is she just comes along and punches me in the face. Her name is Raichu, so I call it waking up the Raichu way.
That's lovely.
It is.
It wakes you up.
It's effective. So I know you're pretty new to Vermont, but maple syrup here, unavoidable for very good reasons. What's your favorite, maple creamy or maple drizzled on snow? Have you had that? Have you had maple on snow yet?
No, I have not. I didn't even know that was a thing. But I've had maple creamies and they're really good. But I still need my maple drizzled on snow intro.
Well, might be a little bit late for it this year, but when we get some nice clean snow next year, we'll heat up some maple syrup and make some maple candy.
Are there businesses that do snow drizzling?
Yes, yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. You can go in like as a class type deal, you know, like little kids will go in and do it.
I'll be with the kids. When did you last introduce yourself to a neighbor?
I've run into people just around in the community. It's hard not to. I have interacted with neighbors before I even knew that they lived near me because I'm always sticking my nose into local business, and then I find out that like the select board guy lives across the street from me. It's like, what's up, dude? What's something small that someone did for you that you still think about?
One time I was in an ice cream line and I waited for like 20 minutes and it turned out they were cash only and I didn't have cash. And I got visibly really sad when I got up to the line and the person behind me, she was like, I'll pay for you. And I was like, are you sure? And then we ended up walking around and talking for like 5 minutes, and she was an attorney and she was telling me how much I'd hate my life going to law school. So then I went to law school. What's the last thing that you searched online that you'd have to explain?
Well, I don't go online a lot. I try to avoid that whole internet thing they call it. Use it for email. So it was probably some random word that I read plus the word definition after it, so the AI didn't just give me a whole spiel on its thoughts. So do you remember when we went and toured the Silloway Sugar House in Randolph with Rocket from Eat Vermont?
Yes.
I remember you showed up and you said, oh my goodness, those mud roads were so bad. And this is like a month ago when mud season had not even started yet. So how have the muddy dirt roads of Vermont been treating you since?
I don't travel. It's definitely been a character building experience. I've never had a mud season in Jersey or Boston before, so it's new, but you know, my Subaru rips right through it. Got that 4-wheel drive. What's a small act of good that you've seen recently that stuck with you?
Oh, I feel like to witness those things, you have to get off the computer and go out into the world, which maybe my struggling to answer means I haven't done enough of lately. I think that good is in the air in Vermont right now. That's the sense that I get when I'm out and I'm at a summit and talking with people and I'm seeing all the work that they're putting into their communities. I think maybe this is just my springtime optimism coming through, but I imagine that even though I can't necessarily say one specific thing, that there's a lot of good happening in Vermont right now. All right, so here's the big question. In one word, what does community mean for you?
Love.
That's a good answer.
Are we done?
I think we did it.
That's a wrap.